welcome to the Bourbon Bear post-draft edition. And Colin, my co-host here, part of the Beast Tour. Overall, what are we thinking about the draft? Hopping right into it.
First off, we just want to say very happy to be here.
Good to have you.
Instant reaction.
You might need to be on a stretcher after this, though. Oh!
You know, it is a Saturday, so what else is new?
True.
Instant thought, happy with the Bears draft. I think, obviously, the big move is trading down from 9 to 10 with Jalen on the board. Instant reaction to that, I was not happy. But the more I think about it, the more I think that was the correct move. Jalen Carter could be the most talented player in the draft, according to some. I will say the Bears' current situation, I think that's a bit of a risk if we take him there. We have a young locker room.
Yep.
We have a very inexperienced defense. I think he fits very well with that Eagles team. They have leaders that will keep him in check. I think the Bears, where they're at, I don't know that they kind of have that guy to rein him in if need be. Mm-hmm. So I think the trade made a lot of sense, and we got a huge position of need with Darnell Wright.
So my initial anger wasn't at the fact that they trade, because I had in a previous video said I really would like Darnell Wright in the kind of the grand scheme of it all.
Sure.
I was a little upset that I know you're only moving one spot back, but we got a future fourth rounder. But those fears got a little alleviated when you saw the trade between Pittsburgh and New England. Basically the same type of trade, and that was actually 3 spots. So I don't want to give too much flack on the, hey, did you really get enough for trading one spot back? I'm with you on the fact that the Eagles had to replace Hargraves, and that's a perfect way to do it. More senior locker room, all good there. But turning the clock back to when the Bears actually traded the number 1 overall pick. The haul we got included, obviously, DJ Moore, a first rounder this year, obviously was returned to the 9th pick, first rounder next year, a second this year, and a second next year. Overall, though, how do you rank Poles', ability to move that pick? And also, why do you think he moved it before the draft was even kind of on the horizon? It was a pretty early trade of a pick.
Yeah, it was. I was as I was in the Circa Sportsbook in Las Vegas, Nevada at the time the trade broke. Just pure pandemonium as that happened. I mean, I don't know how much better you can do from Ryan Poles' seat for making that trade.
I agree.
There was always the talk of the Texans and the Colts, so there was quite a bidding war that Poles used to his advantage. I mean, getting DJ Moore as a bona fide number 1 receiver, has not had a good quarterback in Carolina, and has still been able to produce. I mean, that fills a massive position of need immediately, well before the draft even occurs.
So before we get directly into the players of the draft, though, building on that strategy too, and I know a lot of people are saying this, and I get where they're coming from, but having that first round next year from Carolina does give you that opt-out value. If you really don't think Justin's the guy, you can get obviously a very good pick quarterback for the odds that we're going to be, if we are that bad, having what we have now. But yes or no, Justin's the guy.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know if I'm prepared for that conversation. But I mean, yeah, there's nothing you've seen thus far that tells me that he's not. And to your point too, even a bad year this year, I would be absolutely stunned if the Bears were to move on next year. I know next year, Caleb Williams, highly, highly touted. Pretty much everyone consensus, he was much better than any quarterback that was in this draft this year. I would be really, really stunned if the Bears abandoned Fields after this year, even if for some reason he does not perform. But even having that first-round pick, knowing that the QB room next year for the draft is way, way higher than it was this year, they could even do another trade back potentially. So just having that option and obviously additional draft capital, just fantastic move by Poles.
And I agree there. I think overall, where we want the franchise to go in a general direction, we're getting young, we're getting cheaper, and we're getting obviously skilled players that can actually elevate Justin's talents. I will stick out there, my neck out there, and say he is the guy.
Yeah,
I think this year is kind of a no excuse year though. Last year, everyone was saying, "Oh, the Lions letting him down. Receivers are dropping balls." We've taken this year and made it the perfect situation for him. You have a solid line right now. You've got a good receiving room. Running back room actually looks better and better as the days go on here. Very happy with it. But going into the draft itself, we really missed that fill-in edge rusher role. But before we get a little deeper into that, though, Darnell Wright, number 10. Your thoughts on how he's going to be this season? Because I think he's going to make the all-rookie team at his position, because I think right tackle's kind of a little cheat spot there. Typically you see the best at left tackle.
For sure.
But I can see him being, second team All-Pro at that level.
I mean, depending on who you ask, there were some people who viewed him as the best tackle in the draft. Others did not. I think, at the bare minimum, plug-and-play day 1 starter, no question.
Agreed.
One of the adjustments, coming from Tennessee, they rarely huddled. So you got to think at minimum he's in pretty good shape. I know Poles likes athletes, even on the line, both sides of the ball. that'll be a minor adjustment for him, but it'll be a lot easier to make that adjustment going from the extreme high tempo gimmick offense Tennessee ran.
And everyone hypes up the footage they saw of him versus Jalen Carter, obviously. Not Jalen Carter, I'm sorry. Alabama.
Will Anderson.
Yes. And obviously that's showing that you can go against the best that are in your kind of rookie class.
Right.
But also, if you look at his trajectory when he was at Tennessee, he was playing left tackle, he was playing a little bit of guard, but I think when he finally got to right tackle, that's where he found his purpose, where he could be that team leader, where, obviously his talents are best utilized. And I know it's a right tackle, and people kind of mock, like you take a right tackle that high. But if that's the only hole you have in your line, God bless it. I think Poles made exactly what he had to do.
Yeah.
But then hopping down in the second round, kind of a little bit skeptical of some of these picks.
Sure.
Love the cornerback from the U, but
Agreed.
I guess for Dexter, what do you really think are your projected season he's going to have? He's got a big build, I get that, so I think he can adapt quickly, but he's slow off the ball I'm reading, and I just don't know a lot about him.
So, in regards to the slow off the ball, they asked him about that at his presser. He said his first couple years he was a lot quicker off the ball, and then they made a scheme change at Florida when they made the coaching change to where it was his by design to not be quicker off the ball. How true that is, I don't know.
No, there are some arguments you can make there, whether that be just to stop the lanes themselves, or maybe there's some, you need to take a double team to get an edge rusher off. So that it could make sense. I'm not really not the guy.
I mean, to be honest with you, that position was such a need. I know we needed edge, but 4 edges went off the board from the beginning of the second round to when the Bears picked. So my guess is Poles is sitting there saying the edge talent that they had rated at that pick was not worth it, and they decided to go interior, which a lot of people didn't like the pick. I'm going to be honest, I was not touting that guy pre-draft, anything like that. But that being said, he was a big-time program, highly ranked recruit out of high school, very athletic for his size. That's kind of the prototypical Poles guy you want on your defense.
So the report came out after the draft that the Bears were trying very hard to get into the 30th pick and trade Philly, and that's where they were going to get the Georgia's defensive rusher. I'm writing on his name right now. Nolan Smith.
Yeah.
So that could have been an opportunity where maybe you could give up those 2 second-rounders and possibly a third or a future third.
Sure.
Would you have made that trade? That's a lot of capital to give up.
I'm going to be honest, no, I would not. Given where the Bears are, their roster last year was arguably the worst in the NFL. We have so many holes to fill, and that we still have to fill post-draft. Obviously, we did some good things. But giving up potentially 3 picks to move up into a late first round for 1 edge rusher, I don't think that's a move. Yeah. And to your point, I really like that corner they drafted out of Miami. So
completes our secondary. That makes me feel very good, but the secondary is only as good as the pass rush is. Because if they're going to be running around for their lives and people eventually get open, I feel like you don't want to have that, especially with a second-year safety and a second-year corner that have already kind of got picked apart because of the fact that, hey, we didn't have a pass rush.
I'm with you.
It's kind of demoralizing for him, and that's all I'm worried about in the sense that, it would be a lot to give up to get him, but I don't know.
I mean, there is still some free agency moves they can do. Maybe take flyer on a couple of veterans.
It sounds like they're connected to Indianapolis's. Got a blank on his name too, but it sounds like there's going to be some vet help coming in, which kind of what they did last year with a lot of the holes. And they're going to be short-term deals. I get it, but just to turn the clocks forward a little bit, you have those 2 first-round picks next year. Obviously, we don't know how the season's going to go, but if you get the best available D lineman and the best available wide receiver, I think is going to be Marvin Harrison Jr., then I think you have kind of like the perfect mold in terms of young, efficient, cost-wise talent. Then maybe get 1 big splash player. And that's why I think 2024 is going to be the year this team is going to be holy crap.
For sure. I mean, I'm not holding my breath on Marvin Harrison Jr. If we hold our own pick and we're in the territory of drafting him this year, something went horribly wrong.
But Carolina's pick, though. You never know. It could happen.
That's true. But, I mean, Marvin Harrison could arguably be the number 1 pick in next year's draft. I mean, to your point, that'd be nice, but it might be a bit of a pipe dream. But we'll certainly see what happens.
So then going overall, though, I know we talked about Roschon Johnson a little bit, too. Yeah. And I think this with, Herbert, I think is going to have a solid, but I don't really know his role is going to be this year. Yeah. Mainly because he was that more scat backy, quick, not really a great pass blocker by any means, but when he can make a play, he can make a play.
Sure.
We saw multiple 50 to 70-yard runs he had last season, but I think Roschon Johnson is going to be, he looks like he's built to be an every down back.
Yeah,
I mean, Deontay Foreman, I just don't know how this room's going to operate.
it's a very full running back room all of a sudden, which you wouldn't have thought of once Montgomery left. But Foreman's a veteran. He's the bruiser. He's going to be the short yardage goal line guy. To your point, Roschon, he seems to do a little bit of everything.
Exactly.
I mean, he was an all-state quarterback coming out of high school. Obviously, he was overshadowed by Bijan at Texas, but I mean, he could have gone anywhere else and been a starter for sure.
That's what every report is, that he just happened to be in that situation where the best running back prospect in a long time was ahead of him.
Right.
But do you like that running back by committee approach where, obviously we saw last year with when Monty was healthy and Khalil Herbert was healthy, they do 2 drives and sub them out. 2 drives, sub it out. I don't think that really fit Monty's style because he needs momentum to get going, and you kind of like keep doing that route with him. It doesn't really work out. So that's why I'm curious of what they want to do with all 3 of these guys. Because I'm with you. I think Foreman's going to be that goal line short yards guy for sure. But Roschon, I think, should get probably more carries than we think.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not advocating for, if Donta Foreman's getting 20 carries a game, I don't think that's a solution that I want to buy into personally. So I think they're going to be a bit of a 3-headed monster. Obviously, with Roschon, it's going to take some time to get him acclimated, but from everything I've read and seen from him, he's a good receiver. He's a good pass blocker. So he'll be a big change in that aspect. So there could be room for 3. That's a lot. That's a lot of running backs to play consistently, though. So the cream rises to the top, and we'll see what happens.
And running back is a position where injuries can happen, whether that's a 2-week ankle. It could be whatever it's going to be. And having that depth just helps, so you're wrong. But
no question.
To your point, that we have Foreman for 1 year. I want to see more of him using for, again, those situations where you have to be a bruiser, where your body's going to be on the line, versus these guys make those big plays, good catches, or whatever it's going to be, but at least show development, and I can live with it.
Definitely.
But turning it on, though, just to the last picks, I guess, we had quite a bit in this draft, but what stood out to you at the end of the draft, whether it's that receiver from Cincy, whether it's Noah Sewell, what are you thinking here? It's like the best value you saw in the late rounds.
I mean, the Noah Sewell pick, that guy's a football player. Like, he's a little undersized, he's a little slower, hence being picked in the 5th round. But I mean, that's just a guy who's going to go out there and tackle ball carriers. Like, he is a football player. He has a pedigree. Obviously, brothers with Penei Sewell. He had a very productive career. I know it was in the Pac-12, but I mean, for a 5th round pick for a backup depth linebacker who could potentially progress, I mean, I think that's a no-brainer in terms of a late-round value. In terms of the Cincy receiver, too, burner. Like, that's exciting. I don't know how often he's going to be on the field, but when he is, it'll be exciting.
So that's what I wanted to turn it to, though. Obviously, having him now, you have not a crowded wide receiver room, but you're coming up on Claypool and Mooney's options. I love Mooney to death. I still will vocally say I did not like the Chase Claypool trade, especially with the value turned out to be. But at this point, if you're Poles, can you really not afford to extend him?
I mean,
you kind of that looks bad.
I agree. And, we've talked about it. I was never a huge fan of the Claypool trade either. But to your point, you kind of don't want to compound mistakes, right? I'm not going to sit here and say, like, maybe Claypool's going to have a terrible year, maybe he's going to have a good year. I personally don't think he's that good. I hope I'm wrong. I hope he has a monster year, and it's an easy decision to extend him. But let's say he doesn't, and you're sitting there in the offseason, and pulls, I made the trade for him, I invested in it, do I have to re-sign him? A good GM, the answer is no.
Yes,
like,
that's
if you
swallow your pride and admit you did your evaluation, it didn't work out. But that's where I think we're going to find a true colors moment of polls, if we can find out that, hey, I can learn from my mistakes and move on, or no, I'm all in and this is kind of my strategy, it has to work. And that could be kind of terrifying if he, says Claypool guy, they have similar seasons.
If this was Ryan Pace, Claypool would be re-signed in week 4 because that's something he would do. But
I agree with that.
We will see what happens. But to your point, I don't think there's enough money to extend both of them in the same receiver room. So you kind of do have to pick one, and we'll see what happens. But it could be a good problem to have.
But I think it's still, just for the development of Fields, now that you have 3 solid receivers, I'm not going to say we have the best receiving core in the NFL by any means, but this is like a B. This is probably an upper middle of the pack. Tight end room looking pretty good as well. Again, this just all turns back to no excuses. So that's what I want to say right now. And I know the stats can be a little inflated, mainly because Justin runs so much, but hopefully he doesn't have to this year. But how do you think, in terms of all 32 teams in the NFL, the Bears line will rank?
The line? I like the Darnell Wright pick, obviously. Nate Davis coming in at guard. Jenkins showed some flashes on the interior.
If he can stay healthy.
I agree. Braxton was good enough to get the right to come back at left tackle. I think it's time to move on from Cody Whitehair, honestly. I think they should cut him and go another route. I don't know what that route is, but I think he's been deteriorating for quite a few years. He's been injured. He's just not the same guy he was.
So it's kind of weird. I read an article about him. The fact that they could have saved money as a post-June 1st cut.
Yeah.
But the Bears haven't spent enough money to the point where you actually are mandated by the NFL to spend.
Yep.
So it's also kind of like, what do you do right now? Unless you find a great free agent or trade partner for an edge, I think you keep him this year and just say, hey, why not?
Yeah, I mean,
again, money's not like this issue this year, so.
It is tough. I mean, it is a center position. I mean, they drafted your boy from Illinois last year, but I don't know that guy's ready to step into a starter's role. They have Lucas Patrick, who was injured all of last year, so I think you almost have to do that by committee in terms of depth.
No, and that's what I'm saying this year. I think he's probably going to wind up staying unless, to your point about veteran edges, or maybe... I mean, the Chase Young thing has come out, but I don't think that's going to happen. But anyways, the line as a whole, though, I do think this has the potential to be a obviously top 15, but maybe a top 10. Braxton Jones is actually the biggest question mark in my mind. He had a good year last year, don't get me wrong. And we are probably going to be playing easier competition this year just based on our finishing the division. But if he can be good, the value you get in him and Darnell... unbelievable.
I'm with you too, and anytime you have a new line too, continuity is huge. These guys have not played together. I mean, Braxton did have a good year, but he's still a pretty late round pick, a bit of an unknown guy. That's asking a lot for him to become an elite left tackle. Anything to average above average from him this year, I'm excited about.
It's a win.
I agree. And I mean, Jenkins, if he can take a big step, which I think is more realistic than Braxton, just given his pedigree and where he was drafted and his college background.
And his health seems to be coming back.
It does.
As seasons progress.
I mean, I don't know. I'm not going to say that I don't think the Bears will have top 10 line. Anything around average I'd be ecstatic about, given where we were last year.
True.
I mean, Nate Davis has been solid previously, so I think that was a good value signing. But, I mean, top 10, someone would really, really have to make a strong leap. Or maybe Darnell is really that good.
And don't get me wrong, that comes more down to the competition we're playing. That, they're going to have a little bit of inflated stats there. Yeah. But ultimately, if they can protect Fields and just keep him alive, keep him upright, don't let him run. Like, obviously he can run when he needs to, but we need to see that air development, mainly because this was the worst passing attack in the NFL last season. Number one rushing attack, granted, but that all comes down to that Fields not a leading rusher. But now going to the defensive side of the ball for this 2023 season, again, we have an addressed edge, so I don't have a lot of confidence.
Big problem.
Very, very, very skeptical going in, but where do you think they're going to tier in the NFL?
I mean, there's nothing I've seen that you can argue that the Bears are even in a top half defense right now with what they've done.
I agree with that.
Until they address the edge. I mean, even the interior, there's a lot of question marks. I mean, Eberflus seems to be all in on Justin Jones as our 3-tech guy, like no matter what. And I'm like, okay, he's fine, but he's our best returning lineman.
So you don't think Pickens or Dexter could take over that spot?
Oh no, they could for sure. But I mean, in the presser last week, Eberflus was like, Jones is our 3-tech, and then we'll have some rotational guys in the draft picks.
So I will say, though, of the line we had last year, he was the only competent player in that position.
Agreed.
So I would take that as hey.
Right.
And maybe he gets a little bit better off in the offseason, I don't know. But
agreed.
Again, I'm not even worried that much about the 3-tech in the sense that I think he can play it, but when you have no rushers, I know we got the guy from the Titans, but overall, over-under, if I had to throw out a number for you, sacks the Bears have this year.
Oh, God.
What would be your...
how many did they have last year, ballpark?
I believe it was 21.
I mean...
It was 20 to 21. Britzker led the team with 3.
I mean, God, I hope they have more than that.
I mean, if they don't, we are in serious trouble. Then next year you have to spend all of your free cap room on edge.
I mean, even Walker, the guy they got from the Titans, is more of a situational guy. I mean...
And that's where he got his 7 sacks based on 3rd and long, so he'd come in and run.
And the Titans had a very good defense as well. I mean, Simmons on the inside, he had some help. But, I mean... God, you have to improve on that at minimum, but the horses on the edge are still not there, even including him. I mean, Travis Gibson is just like, he has not done anything since his rookie year when we had a couple guys.
And we actually thought he was going to be.
Hand up, I thought he was.
I did too, and I know the Bears are banking on that happening, but it just has not clicked. And
yeah,
it's just like But end of the day, if they can get 30 sacks, because again, that's improvement from last year. Which
that would be nice. I mean,
at least improvement. Show me we're getting better.
I mean, Yannick Ngakoue's on the waiver wire. Like that would be a nice 1 year signing. Yep. Like. I mean, you got to do something.
He's had, I think it was 3 years in a row of at least 8 sacks. So someone like that, just to teach the young guys too, like what to do on that D line, I'm all for it.
I agree, and they still have Dominique Robinson from last year, who had 1 sack in the first game and then the rest of the season.
Do you think he actually has some potential?
I think
it was a 5th round pick to be right. Like those rarely pan out. But
I mean, I think he does. I mean, he's a converted wide receiver.
Yeah.
So. He's athletic.
But he needs time.
He needs time. He needs some size. So if we're relying on him, which we may be, that's probably not a good sign in year 2. I mean, there's no point to write him off. I mean, he could develop, but him playing a major role on our edge attack this year, probably not the best thing for our defense.
I agree with that. So changing gears a little bit here. So Poles has made a lot of these moves for the future, which is smart. Obviously, moving from 1 to 9 and then 9 to 10. Have a lot of capital coming up with the next couple of drafts here. Yeah. But Matt Eberflus came in to be a defensive coach. So we've been talking about defense, and we need to see the improvement, the lack of sacks. Is he going to be on a clock this year if that defense is still that bad, or are we giving him the benefit of the doubt that, hey, this was a true rebuild.
Yeah.
We want you to be the coach of the future. Yeah. That's what you think?
No, he's not. He's not on the clock at all. I mean, the Bears roster that he inherited, like arguably the worst thing in the NFL.
It was torn down.
It was terrible. I mean, obviously we've already made some improvements via the draft, free agency this year. I mean, the Bears don't need to be like top 10 defensively this season for him to be solidified as the coach.
Yep.
I mean, you need to show some improvement, no question. I think they will, just from the sheer fact of their improvements on the interior and the linebacking core. I think that should be enough to get them a little improved at least. I mean, Eberflus, unless something goes just absolutely disastrous and they go like 2-15 for some reason, I mean, he's back next year. He's about as safe as he can be.
But the reality is, though, and I know my predictions were, I know Fred came out here and said we're going to win 12 games.
I won't comment on Nick Fred's predictions.
Oh, my God. But last year I was realistic that, like 5 or 6, but we won 3.
Yeah.
That's not a good look for a first-year coach. And I know this team is bare bones, but I think this year, I mean, you have to be around 500.
Yeah.
Or else I think you failed as a coach. I mean, the talent is no longer as much of an excuse as it was.
Yeah.
But if you go and win 4 games this year, then I'm starting to raise a lot of red flags.
Yeah, I mean, I think you gotta get towards 7 wins at minimum.
Yeah.
The schedule's a little bit easier. Our division's gotten a little bit easier. I don't care what people say about the Lions; they're not good. They had a terrible draft.
I love that bet of fade the Lions week 1 because everyone in the public is going to be on them.
Yeah,
I think that's going to be a steal.
They're all of a sudden the NFL darlings. Yep. They didn't make the playoffs last year. They drafted a running back at number 11. I don't know what the hell they're doing. So they don't really scare me. Rodgers is gone. Jordan Love is a bum. Kirk is a year older.
Yep.
Who knows?
I agree with that.
But point being, the division is gettable. Do I expect the Bears to win the division? No. But there is room for improvement, no question.
I mean, realistically, the odds right now in Vegas for them to win the division are 3-1, which isn't, not great, not terrible.
Right.
But I think in the NFL, a lot of things can happen. Look at the Vikings last year,
Yep.
1-possession games. They were unbelievably statistically winning those.
Yeah.
But you never know. Again, NFL is a weird sport.
Yeah.
I guess the long run I'm looking for, though, is I think we agree 2024 is going to be the year where they actually shine.
Has to be.
But optimistic and negative, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think that the window is between wins and losses? I guess wins, let's just do wins. But I think we're going to be between on the low side, the lowest I would give them a possible 6.
Okay.
The highest I would give them is 10.
Gotcha.
What are you thinking there?
I think, unfortunately, the range of the floor is a lot wider than the ceiling. I mean, unfortunately, the Bears could still be very bad this year.
I agree.
We don't
That's
know.
true.
The odds of them improving to, say, 12 wins, or if you had a gun to my head and you had to tell me take the Bears to have 13 wins or 3 wins, which would I pick?
Oh,
unfortunately, probably 3.
No, 13. Right.
That's way lower. I mean, on the bottom end, that range could be anywhere from 4 to 6 on the bottom edge. I don't think that's realistic.
Again,
I think
if we're at that 4, though, I think Eberflus is in your different guy because then he's just not coaching these guys.
I mean, you got to give him more than 2. To your point, like that would be a huge problem. It is. You got to give him a little longer leash than that. But we'll see. I mean, on the top end, I think a very, very successful Bears season is they get up 9-10 wins, maybe sneak into the wild card, or somehow win the division. If the division is down, you never know.
True.
I mean, I don't see the Bears making a miraculous jump to being, a 2 seed in the NFC playoff picture. If they won 13 games, holy hell, Fields might be MVP.
Then Fields is your MVP, then Poles is GM of the year,
Correct.
Eagles coach of the year, but again, I don't think the expectation's going to be that.
Right.
But ultimately, looking at the division, finally ending it out, though, so to your point, we already got a little bit on Detroit here, but Green Bay is going to be a really big wild card this year with Jordan Love. The games he played didn't look terrible, but that's also a victim of circumstance, and they just want to get rid of Rodgers. I get it. Vikings, I think, are going to be on decline this year. Just kind of Vikings get a Vikings, and last year they're way above everyone's expectations. But what do you think Detroit's going to be able to do, though, now? I know the draft did not go well for them, and I agree with you there. Yeah. But I love Monty. Wish him the best. He won us a lot of money.
Yeah, for sure.
Like
Shout out for his touchdown against the Eagles.
Exactly. But ultimately, Detroit is the division favorite. What do you think their realistic expectations in terms of record are?
Yeah, I mean, as I ripped on them, I don't view them as winning like 4 games or anything like that. But I'm just saying, let's temper expectations a little bit. They still did not make the playoffs last year.
Yep.
I mean, they
stopped the Packers though.
True.
That was nice.
That was nice. I did enjoy that. I mean, I view them as about a 500 team, right?
Okay.
Plus or minus 1-2 games either way. In game, I think Dan Campbell is a horrid coach. In game decisioning, but I mean, he's a leader of men, right? So they love playing for him. They love the guy. He makes some questionable decisions in game. I mean, I don't think the Vikings are that good either, but I think they still have to be the division favorite at this point, just because of what they did last year. Jefferson is just unbelievable.
And they got Zay Flowers too.
No, Zay Flowers was to the Ravens. They drafted Jordan Addison. I mean, I think they have to be a slight favorite to win the division at this point. All their advanced stats with lock in their 1 possession wins last year, that will regress to the mean.
Yep.
But again, I have them around a 500 team.
So if you're looking at the division, though, you're seeing a lot of 500.
Yeah, I agree.
Which means it's pretty up for grabs.
For sure.
The Bears can sneak in. And don't get me wrong, we've seen in the past, especially with the expansion with playoff teams, that teams that are under 500 even make the playoffs, which is kind of how it is now.
Yeah.
There is that outlet where the Bears can make a playoff game and at least get some experience,
I mean, for sure. And if you told me, I could see any team in the division winning the division.
Yep.
Would I bet money on the Bears to do so? Probably not. But it is wide open. Any of these teams, there's a lot of question marks. Who the hell knows what's going to happen with Jordan Love? Like, that is clearly the biggest division question mark, maybe aside from ourselves.
So going from division to conference, it sounds like Philly is the clear repeat of the NFC North.
Sure.
And I am kind of all on board that no one's really going to stop them. Dallas, I don't think did enough to be kind of in competition with them.
Yeah.
The Giants are in a weird place where they're kind of good, but they're not good, but no one really knows what's going on. Commanders, the only Commanders, not worried about that. But who else, I guess, in the NFC South or NFC East do you think that could maybe kind of make a run at this?
I mean, throw away the entire NFC South. No one in that division scares me. I mean, Brady's gone.
But it is important, though, that Carolina loses games, so I'm kind of hoping that that division kind of beats expectations with Baker.
That'd be not. I mean, if
we need that.
I agree, but if you told me the Panthers went about 500, I could see it.
Yeah,
right?
well, I agree.
I mean, if Bryce Young is that guy, like, there's no reason like they can't be somewhat decent, right? They have good coaching now, like. There is room for them to grow. Obviously, I want them to be very, very bad.
Yes.
But their division.
Borderline there.
Yeah, I mean, their division is bad, so I don't know. But no one in that division scares me, right? I mean, the Falcons, I do love Bijan, but they drafted a running back. They still have
that many needs.
Yeah, they still have no quarterback. The Panthers, I mean, it's all on Bryce Young pretty much. Buccaneers still have a good defense, but I mean, Baker's at the helm. Yep. You never know what's going to happen with that. I mean, the Niners. They still have QB question marks, but you know they're going to be good.
That roster is just so well defined, though, that they're going to be fine. I'm not worried about it. But, turning back to the Panthers, though, just because that's important. We do play them, obviously, one of our games this season, which is a must-win for Bears fans. Like, if we blow that, oh my God, there will be tears.
Yes.
What do you think? And I know you mentioned it could be around 500, but back to that floor and ceiling question, Carolina could be. I have them at a higher floor than people are thinking I would say.
Mhm.
I think they're going to win at least 6 games, to your point.
Yeah.
Their defense is good. Their line's pretty solid still.
Yeah.
I don't think Thielen's your answer at receiver after losing DJ
no,
Moore.
yeah. That's
And
gonna- that's a
where it's
huge
kind of
hole.
like, and you lose Foreman, who was your best runner, went to the Bears.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It'll be
I don't
interesting.
know.
I mean, they could be very bad too. Like if they won 3 games, I wouldn't be super shocked by that. They do have a pretty good defense. They have some guys on that defense who can play. But
So actually, to that point about the defense, if we could have got Brian Burns instead of DJ Moore, would you have taken it? So you're basically solving one.
So
both solve one.
So which would I prefer?
Yes,
Man,
it's a tough question.
that is a tough question.
It's a tough question.
I mean, I would have been ecstatic with either. If you told me right now that trade occurred and we had Burns over Moore, I would have been as happy as I am now. God, honestly, I think I would have preferred Burns. That guy is that good.
So the only argument you can make is that Moore is on such a friendly contract,
that's true.
which is good for wide receivers. Burns, you would have had to pay the setting market for X because he is that good. So again, either one is a win.
Yeah.
That's equivalent of a first round pick in my eyes. It solves a need the Bears had. I'm with you though. I think Burns would have been the answer. Just because Edge is so hard to figure out.
The thing is though, to the point, Fields is your guy. It's not the worst thing putting weapons around him, right?
Yeah.
If you're going to sacrifice the defense a little bit because you got to get Fields guys to let him have the talent around him to be good, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not going to sit here and complain about DJ Moore.
Not at all. Not at all.
But
Again, it's a win-win scenario because they both fill a need. I get it,
Yeah.
but Edge is just such a with the modern NFL, a very hard position to figure out,
agree.
and you need good ones.
Mhm.
And don't get me wrong, you need good wide receivers, but we've seen wide receivers go in the 3rd round, the 5th round, the 6th round that pan out to be capable players.
Right.
Edge, you see a lot less of that.
Yep.
But anyways, that'll do it. Hope you had fun, guys. Bear down and go Bears.